I'm Philip Daniels.
I'm Joe Cardoza.
I'm Jeff Barnes.
This is The Perspective.
And this is The Perspective.
Welcome to The Perspective.
Good evening and welcome to another exciting episode of The Perspective, brought to you by Team MBS Media. Of course, I'm one of your hosts, Joe Cardoza, joined as always by 15-year NFL veteran, Super Bowl winning assistant coach, Mr. Philip Daniels, and then live from Mobile, Alabama at the Senior Bowl, we have Jeff Barnes. How's it going tonight, guys?
Going great, man. Going great.
Good deal. Good deal. How you doing, Jeff?
Enjoying myself.
I bet. Before we even get started, you already told me and Philip, but you got to share with the people watching at home the background you got going on.
Oh, yeah. Well, so we got a little, it's Senior Bowl, so we're in draft season, right? So you got the old school draft board behind me, some college football on the screen, old school college football video game. It's all about the college this weekend. NFL's on their little hiatus for the weekend. You got the Pro Bowl, what nobody cares about anymore. So it's all about Senior Bowl this weekend. So that's what we're dealing with this weekend.
Good deal. Good deal. Yeah, let's just jump right into it. Of course, talked about it. We had championship Sunday, this past weekend where we saw the Cincinnati Bengals take on the Kansas City Chiefs. And then we had the Philadelphia Eagles take on the San Francisco 49ers. Because there's probably not a lot to talk about, let's start with the NFC championship game first. Man, I just think that anything that could have gone wrong went wrong for the 49ers. Of course, when you have your quarterback who's your starter get injured that quickly, and just kind of snowballed from there where they had to just change their offensive philosophy where your quarterback can't throw. You bring in a guy that's your fourth string quarterback that hasn't been in with that team for a long time, didn't quite have a grasp of the playbook. And I think one of the key plays where I thought San Fran still was kind of in the game was that drive where he had the shotgun snap and fumbled. If Johnson doesn't fumble that ball, you're able to get some points there. I think it might be at least more competitive. I won't say necessarily a different outcome, but a more competitive game. And I think on the side of the Eagles, wasn't the best game from Jalen Hurts, but when he was called on to make plays, he made plays. And something that Philip talks about all the time is being physical. That Eagles offensive line was very physical and just beat up a really talented front four from San Fran. Let's start with you, Philip, and get your thoughts and your perspective on this NFC Championship game.
Well, when the quarterback got hurt in that first series, I knew the game was over pretty much from there. It's tough when you're on your fourth quarterback in a season. That's tough, man. I've never seen a team go through what they went through. I really felt like if Purdy could have stayed healthy, they had a chance. At least, he knew the offense. He could make those quick decisions. They can go to their short game with him. And they can run the ball, and they did run the ball. They stayed with the run. That was a good thing to see. Christian McCaffrey was a beast. He broke all those tackles on that first touchdown. He was really running hard. So Purdy could have stayed healthy. I think they had a better chance. But it's tough when you lose a guy behind center, and not that he's your first guy, he's your third guy, and you got to go to the fourth guy. And those games are tough to win. And you're playing against a team like Philly who's physical, who can rush the passer, who can do those things. And them rushing the passer is what got Purdy hurt, And I'm praying that he don't have to have Tommy John surgery or anything like that, and that he can heal that thing without that. But first time rushing the pass, and the first rush he get hurt, and then there was no recovering from that. You playing a defense that can rush and get sacks like crazy. You know what I'm saying? They got guys all over the place across the board that can go rush the quarterback. And when you put a fourth-string quarterback back there and you put him in front of Philly, them guys right there, they just pinned their ears back. They was ready to go get it. You know what I'm saying? So I just felt like the game got out of hand once the quarterback got hurt. I knew it was pretty much a done deal. But kudos to San Fran for fighting hard and getting through the game. And, at the end, they couldn't even throw the ball. They just had to hand it off. You know what I'm saying? That's tough. And kudos to them for getting to the NFC Championship game with all they went through this year, with all the injuries they went through this year. And I just think that it only makes them stronger. And next year, if they can keep this group together, they're going to be a team to reckon with.
And what about you, Jeff? What was your perspective?
Yeah, to me, exactly that point that Phil described, where he drops the ball on the shotgun. That was game to me. And I said it right then and there, because when you look at the situation, they were in it even when Purdy went down, right? They went down 7-0. They were able to hold the Eagles for a while. McCaffrey has that great drive. They score and even the game up. But your defense goes out. They couldn't get the stop. Bonehead penalties, things of that nature. And all of a sudden, you're down 14-7. You have a chance to move the football. You get a great return. And he fumbles the football in his own end of the field right after you just gave up a score. All the momentum is already in San Francisco's court at that point. And they know, and you have to know, if they fall behind 2 scores at that point, it's over, because you can't trust them. People don't understand how hard it is to go from starter to backup, right? And then you go starter to backup. And then, Josh Johnson, I give him all credit in the world for going out there and trying to perform, but he was only with the team a few weeks. There's no way he knew the full playbook. There's no way he knew all the audibles. There's no way he got enough reps to even have a chance to go out there for 4 quarters and open up that offense. And here you are trying to read disguise blitzes. You can't call hots. There's no way he can call protections and hots and adjust to what he's seeing. He's got to go with what's called from the sideline for the most part. It's a mess. And it was no way they were coming back from 21-7. So when he fumbled that football and you saw them point Philadelphia's direction, you might as well just wrapped it up at that point, because there was no way they were going to make a comeback.
Yeah, and I know football's in the culture. All sports have that culture of next man up. But, man, I don't know about you guys, but I just felt bad for the 49er players, for obviously first and foremost and their fans, to make it that far, to have a chance to go to the big show, and you can't put your best foot forward because the guy you've been riding for with all this winning streak you had going on, Mr. Irrelevant, all that momentum he had going, he couldn't get it done because he got injured. And I got a feel for the guys on that side of that offensive line, too, whether it was a tight end or a tackle, whoever let that pass rusher get by. I know they had to feel kind of awful, too, as well, just to see their opportunity to get blown away like that.
And I just saw the comment about the medical staff. They have nothing to do with the injuries that happen. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to fire anybody, you fire the conditioning and the strength department for not getting these guys strong enough or developed enough to handle these injuries. So I don't think you look at the medical staff. I don't think you look at anybody. These injuries are injuries that season-ending injuries. It ain't like they were pulling hamstrings or they were pulling some stuff that can come back, soft tissue injuries and stuff like that. These injuries are injuries they couldn't come back from. So I don't think you fire anybody or be upset with anybody on the staff. I think they did all they could to help this team. And you got to think, this game, like I say, even though it got out of hand, I think San Francisco helped them in a lot of ways with all these penalties. It was so many penalties in this game that it just helped. It just helped the Eagles. They kept the drives alive, kept things going. Guys lost their composure once their quarterback went down. They were trying to do too much. I saw guys losing contain. I saw all kinds of stuff. Guys that play well, that don't lose contain, don't do those things, were playing out of character and doing different things. So all those penalties killed them. It seemed like every other play is a penalty, and that killed them also. So it's a lot of things that went wrong in this game. Nothing went right for them, but they're a team that can bounce back next year and make some noise.
Yeah, they're also going to come back next year, Jeff, with 3 quarterbacks, where you got Trey Lance coming off an injury, Jimmy G coming off an injury, and you also got Purdy coming off an injury as well. Yeah. But we know when those guys are healthy, that's 3 reliable options you have. And I wonder in the offseason if they don't make a move in San Fran, one of those guys. I don't think it'll be Trey Lance, obviously.
No, I wouldn't move on from Trey Lance. You hadn't even scratched the surface of what he could do yet. You have Brock Purdy. So if Trey Lance isn't ready to go by the time you start the season, you have a choice. You can keep Jimmy G around and have Brock Purdy be your backup until Lance is ready, or you can move Jimmy G while his value is so high, because remember they were trying to move him when everybody knew they didn't want him. Well, now you have no reason to really keep him, because you have 3 guys. There's a lot of quarterbacks in one room that aren't going to play. So somebody can come give you a package now, because he's going to be fully healthy this offseason. He's going to have a chance to go somewhere and start right away and contribute. They could probably make that contract palatable in the trade. And most importantly, there's always quarterback-hungry teams and quarterback-needy teams that aren't at the top of the draft. And honestly, in a draft that I don't see a true first-round grade at quarterback. So you're going to have quarterbacks go in the first round, but they may not be graded first-round players.
Yeah, and that's something we're going to have to talk about, obviously, on a future show. I got some questions for you, Jeff, about some of these guys that are coming out from college at quarterback as well, because I don't know. I'll just give you a little taste of what my concerns are. I don't see any big-bodied guys. I see slim guys with track bodies. I'm having RG3 vibes. I understand that Stroud, and I understand that Bryce are great quarterbacks. Don't get me wrong. When you got guys like Phillip running after you, I don't know if that's the body type. That's my concern with those two. I don't know if that's the right kind of body type.
Not gonna last long. Not gonna last long.
Yeah, Josh Allen's don't grow on trees. You know what I mean? So
True.
you got to deal with the guys you got. Unfortunately, listen, the mobile quarterback is in because you need guys that can escape the guys like Phillip. And the statuesque quarterbacks don't do that anymore. I do believe there's going to be one caveat to that whole quarterback situation this year. It's always the guy that gets pushed up the board that has no business being there. All right. We've already seen one guy getting that treatment. So it's going to be real interesting. We'll be talking about that when we get to that point. We'll be talking about it. We'll be talking about it when we do quarterbacks on the draft show as well. So that's good. That's always a fun conversation talking quarterback in the draft, because there's always that where's Waldo guy that you go, how the hell did he get there? And it's usually because somebody talked him up a board.
Yeah, Zach Wilson comes to mind. Now, we had an AFC championship game, which was a lot more entertaining than the NFC, where you saw Joe Burrow go to his second home, as some people like to say, Kansas City, take on Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs for a right to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. We'll start with you first on this one, Jeff. What was your takeaway and some of your reactions to the Chiefs' victory as they head into the Super Bowl again?
Well, listen, it was a hard-fought game. It came down to mistakes. Mistakes kept Kansas City from opening us up. Remember, they had a chance to take a big lead early in the game, and they blew it, going for it on fourth down. I do believe, people are beating up Joseph Ossai. Listen, it was a bad mistake, crucial mistake in that situation. It is a mistake. There'll be more opportunities for that Bengals team. I didn't believe that last year. I do believe that now. They'll have more opportunities. It's a very good football team. People didn't like the call. He's about 1.5 yards out of bounds. His own teammate let up in front of him. You gotta see that and pull off. He didn't. It wasn't the worst contact in the world, but technically contact started 1.5 yards out of bounds. So I don't beat up the ref for calling it. It's the rule. And you have to be a little bit smarter than that. Understand he did give himself up, let him go out of bounds at that point. Worst come to worst, the guy kicks a 57-yard field goal instead of a 42-yarder. So I think that's where you have to look at it and just say, it's a bad mistake, but it's not the end of the world for these guys. They'll have more chances at the Apple. But I think overall it was a great game by both teams. You want to see a little bit cleaner ending, but overall, give Cincinnati credit. I mean, they could have easily rolled over once he threw that interception in the first half, or when they threw the second interception in the second half. But they kept fighting and fighting and fighting their way back into the game. You ended up tied going into that last minute of the game. So we're all having deja vu going. Are they going to overtime? Is it going to be another Patrick Mahomes interception and Cincinnati going to the Super Bowl? It didn't get that far. Kansas City was able to put the game away. So give credit to both teams. It wasn't the cleanest game in the world, penalty-wise and execution-wise, but a very entertaining game by both teams, hard fought, and you got a true winner out of it.
What about you, Phil?
It was a great game. If anybody ever wondered why home field advantage throughout the playoffs is important, well, the two teams that get into the Super Bowl right now show you how important that is. I thought that game, like I say, when the guy run out of bounds, that extra push at the end is what got him. But he played a great game, Joseph. He played a good game, man. He was all over the place, making play after play. So, you can't beat himself up for that. You know what I'm saying? You just got to get smarter. You got to learn from it. And next year come back and, just make up for it. They're going to be back in the hunt again next year. They got a good team. The coaching staff is doing a great job. Like I said on the last episode, that coach 2 years ago, everybody was trying to get him out of there. You know what I'm saying? He got a year, he's going to be gone. And I give props to them for hanging in there and getting that team to where they got them to. And my thing is they competed in that game. And when you look at that game, it could have went either way. It was a close game. play here or play there, say a psych here or a psych there, that thing's a different. It's a different situation. So my thing is, I just thought both of those teams were deserving. It didn't matter which one of them won. I just thought both of them played hard, but both of them deserved, and whoever got in there got in there. But I thought, overall it was a great game.
Yeah, no, I would definitely have to agree. I had a couple of questions, like Jeff said, as far as about being a clean game, and I think I even sent it on our group text. The repeat of the third down after they stopped Kansas City for the ref to blow the whistle, and I said the crowd was too loud. They said so people couldn't hear the whistle. I'm sorry, it's 2023. I don't accept that. You got to figure out something. There's got to be a different way to communicate to people that, hey, I'm blowing my whistle, whether it's a buzzer or something in a quarterback helmet or a referee's hat or something. I thought that they got some of the calls against Cincinnati towards the end, I thought were really, really questionable. And I'm with you as far as the last play and the roughing the passer call. You got to call it there. That's the rule. But, of course, we know when social media comes around, you're going to get some of the worst of the worst. And people saying that one play is the reason Cincinnati lost the game. Absolutely ridiculous. There was other factors that came into play. But some of those calls towards the end of the game, I just didn't understand at all, especially the repeat of that was a big one because if they stopped Kansas City, the Chiefs are getting ready to punt. Next thing you know, you're getting a repeat on that again. That's a play I've never seen in all my years of watching football.
And Cincinnati, this draft and this offseason, I would like to see them, get that old line the way it needs to be for Joe Burrow. Again, some time back there. I mean, you got to think this is a young quarterback that has so much success, and he hadn't had the guys in front of him to protect him the way he need to. I really thought that was going to be a problem going into the game. Them being able to imagine them advancing and get to the Super Bowl and have to go against the Eagles, who can pass rush, their butts off. So I mean, it was one of those things I thought was going to be a problem, and it did in some areas. But I would like to see them get that old line together, get some better players in there to protect him and give him an opportunity because Joe Burrow's a good quarterback to be under duress like he has the last 2 years. They need to correct that, and I would just spend this whole offseason, either free agency, the draft, looking at old linemen that can come in and help them out.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% on that one. I mean, they did it last offseason. It did Lionel Collins, reclamation project of sorts, had a decent season until he got hurt. A really good season, actually. But I think if I'm Cincinnati, I'm with you, Phil. We do it again. Free agency. If we got 6 draft picks, 4 of them are going to be offensive linemen. Hopefully we can get 2 good ones out of there because you got a generational talent at quarterback. And him running for his life and taking big hits, it's not. We've seen it happen before where it's not going to last long. So that has to be top priority for Cincinnati.
And some of that is also style of play. Of Burrow is the kind of guy that's going to hold the ball as long as he can for somebody to get open. He's not going to check the ball down that often. So it also some of that has got to be Joe trying to say at times, just check the ball down. Don't take the punishment because eventually those hits add up. Eventually the injuries add up as you get older. You don't bounce back from later in your career like you did early in your career. So at some point, Joe's got to eventually go, you know what? The clock's got to go off. I can't do this, wait all day for guys to get open, wait for that deep route to clear, wait for this to clear. Sometimes it's, okay, it's not there. If it's 1st and 10, just check it down and get the 3-4 yards on first down. You just gotta play smarter. It's like the guy that doesn't want to slide or run out of bounds when he scrambles. He wants to take on a defender. Sometimes you got to play smarter. And same thing when you're standing in that pocket. Sometimes you just got to check it down. You can't wait all the time because you're going to take those hits. You're going to take those sacks. And sometimes if you do get the ball off, it's intercepted going the other way because it flutters in the air and hangs around for somebody in the middle of the field to pick it off.
Yeah, not for sure. I think something else, too, that stood out to me in that game was the play of the Chiefs rookies. So many rookies on the defensive side of the ball, and I feel like every single one of them had at least one really, really good play throughout that game. And we talk about making sure you have a good draft and an eye for talent. I think Kansas City kind of proved just in that game alone they had a pretty solid draft this past year because they had guys making plays left and right on the defensive side of the ball.
Absolutely. Well, let's start with Isaiah Pacheco. Here's a guy out of Rutgers. A lot of people looked at him, saw his film, said, oh, this is a amazing runner. Why is he not talked about? And we went all the way to the draft, and people finally started to catch on a little to who Isaiah Pacheco was. He ends up going to Kansas City, and he's the star of their backfield. Not the guy they drafted a couple of years ago early in Clyde Edwards-Helaire. It's Pacheco's show now. So it's just a matter of understanding which talent you have on the board, taking it where it makes sense. I didn't like the Edwards-Helaire pick. I liked Dobbins way more. Dobbins is killing it in Baltimore. All right, up until his coach got him injured in a preseason game. We're not going to talk about that right now. But you have to look at what you're doing in the draft. They did a great job. Listen, the Karlaftis pick, right where he was supposed to be taken, has been paying major dividends for that defense. And speaking of that defense, we don't give enough credit to Steve Spagnuolo, the guy who gets ripped weekly when they give up a lot of points. He sure enough did a good job against that Bengals offense.
Yeah, nah, for sure. So Super Bowl is set. It's going to be the Philadelphia Eagles going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. Of course, long overdue, but kind of ironic, in my opinion, happening in the month of February. For the first time, we'll have two black starting quarterbacks in the Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes. So I'm sure I'll be talked to death. But before we leave the AFC Championship game, because I know Phil probably knows a lot better than I do, and Jeff too as well. You guys played a lot more football than I have. The Patrick Mahomes high ankle sprain. Oh my God, can he make it? Oh my! Until that scramble, I didn't see any effect from the ankle at all. That kid was out there slinging it. Yeah, he wasn't scrambling and running like he usually does, but he'd rather beat you from the pocket. And he was still able to slide to the left and to the right, kind of move up in the pocket, create plays. And until that throw on the sidelines where he landed on it wrong, I saw no effects from the ankle. Is that just another example of the media blowing up something that wasn't really there?
No. Sometimes with ankle sprains, you can feel good at first, and it takes that one time for you to extend it a little more than it's ready to, and you hit a crack, and then all of a sudden you're back in pain again. And that's what happened. He went down, it went further than it was supposed to, and it popped and said, okay, I'm hurt again. And that's when he started limping around again. You saw him walking out there, limping to the huddle. So,
sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah. So, it was just he just had to tweak it all over again. And it just happens at one time where you just come around and it's right there. You make that one bad plan, it's twisted on a tackle, whatever it is that just extends it a little more than it's comfortable with being extended, and then you're back in the same pain you were when you first heard it.
Were you believing the hype throughout the week, Phil? He's only going to be 10%. That's the reason they're going to lose.
I believe it because we were talking about it. Everybody
was.
We don't know how this game's going to go if he's not playing and he's not 100%. But he comes out there. Shout out to their training staff for getting him ready to go, man. And they say he had a high ankle sprain. Well, now I'm starting to believe he didn't. It was just a regular ankle sprain, because a high ankle sprain, to my understanding, I done had it before. I mean, it's almost a 4-week injury. Yeah. And, and it still don't start feeling good to that second week, maybe into that third week when you start feeling better, But I don't know if he had a high ankle sprain. I just think he had a regular sprain, and he was fortunate to be able to come and play in this game, because when you look at that injury, it looked bad. It looked really bad. But the fact that he was able to play, finish that game, and then get the treatment he got during that week, and then able to come back and play in the game, and like Jeff said, he was fine until he had to run, or he tweaked that thing, and then he started limping around again. But he got through the game, which is kudos to him, man. He's a tough guy to get through a game with an ankle like that, and not worry about guys coming back there twisting it or hitting it or trying to take advantage of him some kind of way. But he did a good job of getting through the game and making plays, and like I say, their O-line did a good job of protecting them for the most part, and he got through the game. So I did buy the hype. I thought he was really hurt after when I saw the injury. It looked bad, but when I see him play on in the game on Sunday, I'm like, I don't know if it was a high ankle sprain. I think it was a regular sprain, and they overblew it a little bit just to get to the game and have the advantage.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then obviously having the time off before the Super Bowl would be nothing but a help for him, because you want to have your players at the top performance. This is the biggest game of their lives, so you want them to be top notch. So, like I said, Super Bowl is set. Obviously, in our upcoming shows, we'll do a deeper dive into the Super Bowl and the matchups and different things to look out for. But just off the top of your head, kind of like a light preview, what are you guys already off the top thinking that are going to be key factors, things to look out for in this matchup with Chiefs in Philadelphia?
Well, for me, I think when you look at the Chiefs, man, you got two of the best play callers in Andy Reid and Bieniemy over there. That's they're putting that together, and they come up with new wrinkles every week. They're gonna get creative on offense, and you're giving them 2 weeks to do that. So I just think Andy Reid's gonna come up with a plan that's going to help them in this game, and it's going to be competitive. It's going to be a good plan. Of course, everybody know about the Eagles and when on defense how they can rush the passer and how they can come after the quarterback. I just think that when you give someone 2 weeks to prepare, both sides, it's going to be some new wrinkles somewhere, and it's going to be guys flying around making plays. So I just think it can go either way. A lot of times I guess is Kansas City the underdog in this game? A lot of times, a lot of times the underdogs come out and do pretty good in these games, just like we were when we won the Super Bowl. So I just think that it's going to be a good game, and I put Andy Reid play calling up against anybody because he's going to come up with a good plan, and the Eagles going to have a good plan too. They got to be ready, but I just think it's going to be a game where you can't turn the ball over. You just got to play solid, and you got to be able to run the ball. Both sides got to be able to run the ball, and that's going to be the key to the game. In these playoff games, if you can run the ball, stop the run, you got a better chance of winning.
Jeff?
Yeah, I think you're going to have, if you're Kansas City, you have to have Steve Spagnuolo run that back. Okay, the way you're able to slow down Joe Burrow and the Bengals offense, we need you to do the same thing against Philadelphia because we're not going to be able to do this whole track meet thing with that defense. You can't give them too many times to put heat on Patrick Mahomes. You're not going to be able to run the ball consistently against them for a lot of big yards. You may pop a run here or there against them, but you're not going to be able to just go right straight down the field. Not even the bully ball San Francisco 49ers could do that, right? So you're going to have to find a way to corral that offense a little bit, keep it where you can score your normal amount of points and beat them that way. Don't make this a shootout because you're going to put Patrick Mahomes in harm's way, and against that pass rush, that's how they feed. Teams that like to throw the football a lot don't do well against Philadelphia. So that's where the remedy's got to be. Spagnuolo, slow that offense down so we can slow our offense down, try and minimize possessions on both sides, and try and make this a manageable game.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. Oh, go ahead, Phil.
Jeff, you're exactly right, man. When I look at the Chiefs and I think about their defense, I know some of their coaches. I talk to them on a regular basis, text them and everything. But Steve Spagnuolo is a guy that's been around, been to Super Bowl, won Super Bowl. He's a smart dude, man. And then you add Joe Cullen, the D-line coach, with that, with all the experience. And then you got Ken Flager, the linebacker coach there, And Ken, when I know Ken in our meeting rooms, Ken was vocal. He know a lot of stuff. If anybody can slow this Philadelphia offense down, it'll be those guys because they got a world of experience over there, and they're going to use that to their advantage. And I think they'll come up with a really good game plan. So I trust those guys. They did it last week. I trust them again to come to the Super Bowl and do it again. And it's going to be a hard-fought game.
Sound like Phil was making a pick without making a pick just now. I caught on to that. I was like, wait a minute, is he picking Kansas City? Yeah, I'll make a pick. My early pick is the Chiefs because I think if their defense can do what they did against Cincinnati again, that offense is just explosive. When you got like we've been talking about, when you got the Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy combo, all those weapons the Chiefs have, you got to hope that Hardman, with having those 2 weeks, can come back healthy again. I think to combat that blitz, you're going to see a lot of screens. You might even see the old school draw play, a lot of quick passes to receivers to kind of negate that Philadelphia Eagles blitz. But I think if the Chiefs defense can hold their own, yeah, I can see Kansas City winning this game. That's my early pick.
Yeah, for me, I don't even want to pick. I can see this game going either way. I can see it going either way. I know that if you give Andy Reid 2 weeks to prepare for a game, he's going to come up with something that you've never seen before. And it's going to be something that's going to be the benefit of the offense. There's going to be a bunch of wrinkles. There's going to be a lot of good things. And then I know you give Philly defense some rest for 2 weeks, and you get this. I can see it going. I can see it going either way. I've been in this game. We were underdogs, and everybody thought we didn't have a chance against New England. And we go out there and we win the game, and it was a tough game, you know what I'm saying? And we gave up a bunch of passing yards, but we only had to make one play to win the game. And these two teams, whoever make that one play, that one special play, y'all remember the catch with the helmet catch and all that stuff?
David Tyree, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a play in this game that's going to be a spectacular play that changes the whole course of this game. I don't think this is going to be a blowout anywhere. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be guys that's fighting. It's going to be a bunch of guys hungry to win a ring. You got to this point it's lights out right now. It's lights out. So I just think I don't even want to make a pick. I can see Philly winning. I can see Kansas City winning. But I think the team that's going to win is the team that makes the fewest mistakes in this game, and that usually is the difference in the game.
Yeah, nah, without a doubt, man, it's going to be an exciting one. And no discounting Jalen Hurts at all, because if the Chiefs defense can't do what they need to do, don't be surprised if he lights it up as well. It's a very talented quarterback, but there's a reason he has the record he has, and he's skyrocketed from being an afterthought to the starter and the leader of this Eagles team pretty quickly. So, I mean, if the Chiefs defense can't come to play, they're making mistakes and not staying and honing in their assignments, I wouldn't be surprised to see Philadelphia light it up as well. But that's kind of our light Super Bowl preview. You are watching The Perspective on Team MBS Media. When we come back, there's a whole lot of league news to talk about. We have coaches hired, coaches being fired. So keep it locked. We'll be right back. And welcome back to The Perspective, brought to you by Team MBS Media. Philip Daniels, Jeff Barnes, I'm Joe Cardoza. Man, guys, never a dull moment in the NFL. A lot of movement going on today. We had head coaching news, assistant coaches being let go, getting new jobs. Let's start with the team that we talked about a lot during the season. That's the Denver Broncos. A lot of people, including myself, drank the Kool-Aid and thought that Russell Wilson, Nathaniel Hackett, man, they're going to be the class of the AFC West. We see how that went. Hackett didn't even make it through the whole season. Denver comes out swinging, trying to go after everybody. Jim Harbaugh, he said no. Harbaugh says he's going to stay with Michigan. They still fly out there. I mean, they're bringing out the Walmart money to anybody and everybody, trying to get somebody to come in and be the top flight head coach. Right before we're getting ready to come on air today, we find out that they agreed to a compensation deal with the New Orleans Saints, and Sean Payton will be the new head coach of the Denver Broncos. Obviously, Super Bowl winner, a guy that proven time and time again he's a good coach in this league. What are your initial reactions to this Broncos move? We'll start with you, Phil.
Man, my initial reaction was like, man, do the Broncos even have any draft picks for this year? I was like, wow. Yeah, I mean, to get Sean Payton, a coach that's won a Super Bowl and proven himself in New Orleans, they say he's a mastermind on offense, calling plays, and he can help Russell Wilson out a whole lot. And you look at that team, the last few games of the season, Denver actually won games and competed. They were a better team toward the end of the season. So I feel like getting Sean Payton in there and putting him with a guy like Russell Wilson, the way he designed plays and the way he go about calling the offense is going to benefit him a whole lot. So I think we should next year. I mean, if you drink the Kool-Aid when they got Russell Wilson this year, then you definitely should be drinking the Kool-Aid now that Sean Payton's in there, because it's going to be a different atmosphere in there. He's going to come in and change a lot of things. They don't have many draft picks, but at the same time, they got a lot of good players there. And then they'll get in the free agency and make it happen. But I just think it's a great thing to get him in there and finally get a coach in place that's proven himself. So I think it's going to be good for Denver.
Jeff?
I mean, it's a good hire. I mean, you made a mistake last year, and I'm glad they recognized it in 1 year instead of waiting 3 years. Because the amount of damage they would have done to that franchise waiting 3 years or even 2 years for that matter. Hackett was a bad hire. Whatever the motivation was behind hiring him, they fixed it right away. He was out in a year. You went out there, you identified 2 guys you really liked. You wanted Ryans. They tried really hard to get Ryans. Eventually, it was Sean Payton. Even when they were negotiating a deal with Sean Payton, they still reached out to Ryans again and said, "Are you sure you want Houston? We really, really want you in Denver." But he wanted Houston, So he chose Houston. They chose Sean Payton as their backup, made sure that deal was done before anybody swooped in to try and mess that up. So you got the guy you wanted. He's a veteran coach, knows how to coach down the opposite side of the ball. He'll bring in a defensive coordinator capable of using the players you have on that side of the ball. I think overall it's a good hire. If there's any juice left in Russell Wilson, he's going to squeeze it out of him. But most importantly, he's going to get those young receivers that didn't perform last year to perform. And that's something he didn't have in New Orleans after a while in his last couple of years. He had one young receiver in Michael Thomas, and everybody else were older guys and retreads or just guys that weren't good enough to be starters. And he just kept cycling through those guys and trying to make do. And then when he lost Michael Thomas, he was really in trouble. So he got out of the New Orleans situation while it was bad, left that to his protege to take over. Here he is in Denver with a better situation. They got compensation done, and he's going to be in a better place. I think they'll be a better team. Will they win a division? I don't know about that. I think they'll be a lot more competitive, though.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm with you, Jeff. Kudos to Denver for recognizing during the season, hey, we made a mistake, bad hire. And something that we've all talked about a lot during the course of us doing this show is how, unfortunately, in the NFL, who do you know, family, friends, hot new assistants getting the job. And sometimes people are just not ready for prime time. Hackett might be a great assistant. Doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be a great head coach. And we saw what happened this season. I think that kind of proves my point. In Carolina, I thought Wilkes was going to get the job. I thought they already had their head coach. After you pull the interim tag, you give the guy the gig. Instead, another retread. We see Frank Reich there. One of the used to play for Carolina. Okay, great. He's named head coach of the Carolina Panthers. And to me, even without seeing him coach a game with Carolina, I think the Panthers made a mistake. I think they should have stuck with the guy to see where that team was with Matt Rule and where they were at the end of the season, contending for a playoff spot, playing hard every week. They should have stuck with the girl they brought to the dance.
Yeah, I'm gonna go first on this one. Because listen, they did Steve Wilkes wrong here. You hired him as the interim coach during the season to right the ship. He righted the ship. You're competing for the division with 1 week left in your season. All right. You won one game with Matt Rule this season. One game. All right. This is the guy you paid all that money to, who put you in the situation you're in. So he comes in, he rights your ship. He gets the team going the right way. And in the end, you say, well, it wasn't good enough. We're still going to bring in somebody else, somebody that just got fired from somebody else. Now, I hope this is a good hire for them because there's a certain guy who hosts a show who would love to be back in the NFL coaching, and he coached with Frank Reich. So, Frank Reich, your colleague is here waiting for a job. What are you waiting on? You need a D-line coach now that you got the job in Carolina. He's not far from Carolina now, so it's just a short U-Haul trip away. So, I think this is one of those things. Is Frank Reich really as good as he was? Because when they had the team in Indianapolis when he got there, yeah, they were playing around with different quarterback options, but that was a very, very talented team despite the quarterback position. They got even better at running back during his tenure there. There was a lot of pieces that were there. What went wrong with Indianapolis this year that made them so bad? Was it Frank Reich? Was it certain roster moves? We don't know. It's all getting blown up anyway. So that's a whole other situation. But he didn't exactly get the bull by the horns and control the situation in Indianapolis either. It just spiraled out of control worse. So that's an indictment on Frank Reich. So if things go that bad again in Carolina, can he right the ship? Or is he just going to be the captain that goes down with the ship again?
Phil?
Well, for me, I know both of these guys. I've had interaction with both of them. I coached with Frank Wright in Philly, and I was asked a question on one of our previous episodes. What did I think he'd get another job? And I said, yeah, for sure, he definitely will get another job. Uh, and my thing is, when you look at the things that happened to him in Indy. First, they never really had they never solidified the quarterback position. That was one of the problems there. And when you keep bringing in the older guys like Phillip Rivers and those kind of guys, you just keep going over and over. Matty Ice and the older guys, who's on the last leg of their playing careers. I just think it did a disservice to him in a lot of ways. But of course, I felt like even though he got fired, I thought he should have at least finished the season, let him finish the season to see how that thing goes. But they decided to make a difference. They went to Jeff, and that's their decision. They got to make that decision for themselves. But Frank is a guy. I'm just tell you what I know about him. Frank is a guy who put in long hours. He's always in the building trying to figure out how to get better, how to help the team win. I remember a lot of times me and him were the last two people out of the building at 1, 2 in the morning. He was laughing because I walked by his office. He still had his head down working. So they're gonna get a good. He's gonna do a good job for Carolina. They got to get the quarterback position situated though. They got to get that right and to give him an opportunity to go out and do his thing. Because one thing about the NFL, and I learned this just being around it. You cannot win if that guy behind center is not a good quarterback. If he's not efficient and he's not the guy that can go out and take the team to the next level. You have to go out and get that guy. So hopefully they will. They'll go out and get that guy. Now Steve Wilkes, I thought he did a hell of a job for Carolina, taking over that team, barely missing the playoffs, doing all he could to get that team where he needed to get that team. I mean, that team was running through some people. They was physical. They were competitive. I thought also that he would get that job, that he deserved it, in a lot of ways. And the fact that, of course, it seemed like, Steve, he gets the short end of the stick all the time. You know what I'm saying? When he was out in Arizona, 1 year he was gone. And then now in Carolina, he go and take this team almost to the brink of playoffs, and he don't get that job either. So my thing is, man, it's like when it comes to us, brothers, we don't have a long leash to make it right, to get it right, or to do great things and it lasts a while to get that thing right. You got to get it right now. And I thought Steve did that for the most part. I thought he did a hell of a job of coming in there, taking over a situation that wasn't the best situation and getting those guys to where he got them. So my thing is, I think either way, I mean, Frank, I knew he would get another head job. And then you got Wilkes, who on the other hand, I thought deserved the job. I mean, it's right. It's tough, man. It's a tough situation. But I mean, my thing is, some of these teams, and you won't know until like a couple years down the road whether they made a mistake or not. I mean, you can't really say that they made a mistake because Frank is a good coach and Steve is a good coach. I like both of them. I want the best for both of them. But in this case, since Wilkes was already on that team, you kind of figured that they'd keep him around, and they didn't. So I don't understand that. But at the same time, I have confidence that Frank can go in and get it right.
And we have to talk about the Houston Texans, obviously, and naming their head coach one of their most beloved players of all time. And we've been talking about it a lot, and we're going to keep on talking about it a lot, how we don't see a lot of black head coaches on the sidelines. The biggest headline I took away from that Texans deal was the 6-year contract. Sad to say that, but that's just the way the NFL has been doing, brothers, forever. A 1 year trial basis, 2 years, the option for a third, 6-year contract. To me, is a sizable investment that should give him an opportunity to kind of get things the way he wants them, get his people in there. And I think that him being one of their favorite players of all time by not just the fans, but people that have been with the organization for a long time, you would hope that would give him a longer leash to kind of create the kind of environment he wants.
I think by giving him a 6-year deal, Houston is saying that we're going to give him time. We can give him time. We didn't give the other two guys but a year, but we're going to give him some time to get it right. Same thing they did in Detroit with their head coach. So I just felt like, for them to do that, it was like to let the fans know, let everybody know that, yeah, we're going to be patient with this guy, give him some time to build his team. and then we'll see where it go from there. But DeMeco, I'll tell you, he's a competitive guy. Everybody that talks about him talks about the fire he has for football. He's a good player, and sometimes the best coaches are players, former players who's done that. Just look across the league. Frank Wright, we just talked about one, and then you got DeMeco coming in there, and I think the thing is they can relate to the players. Look at Doug Peterson, former player, right? They can relate to the players, and they become player coaches. They know what the players are going through, and I think he'll go into Houston. They got a lot of draft picks. They can go out and make that team better, and he's going to make that defense vicious over there. That defense is going to be real good, and they're going to compete. And I think it's a good hire. I think they went the right route, and it's always good to see one of us get a job, and they give us a 6-year deal to say that we're going to make sure that this time we give them some time to make it right, get it better.
Amen to that. Jeff?
Yeah, I agree. Listen, the 6-year contract is saying we're going to make this commitment to you. Now, it doesn't hurt the salary cap, so they could fire him in 3 if they don't like the way it's going and still pay him out. But it shows good faith. For once, you're starting to see a head coach in Houston hired with good faith that they're going to execute a long-term plan. We didn't see that with Culley. We didn't see that with Lovey. You just knew they were hired as the next head coach of the Houston Texans. We didn't get anything that said they were going to be the long-term head coach. They came in with all the pomp and circumstance that any hire had, but nothing about this was their era. Okay, it was just, this is your new head coach. They're ushering in a new era here. Okay, so they believe in their former hometown hero. Now, what is he going to get with this opportunity? Because I don't believe he's going to be picking his personnel. That's going to be on the guy that hire him to bring in his personnel. So he's going to need quality players that fit what he wants to do, what he believes is the vision for this roster going forward. So this is a case where the GM, you made this hire. You have to be able to get with the head coach, and y'all have to work together on and mesh out what you need to succeed. It can't be the GM saying, I know what you need, I'll get it for you, and he gets it, and the coach is going, what are you giving me? This has to be a marriage where you can communicate and say, this is what I need. These are the guys that I like. If you can't get those, we'll come up with a second alternative option. And you can say, well, I like those guys, but I think you can work with these. And there has to be a middle ground. It can't just be, here's the guys I'm getting you. All right, go out and win. Because that doesn't usually work. 90% of the time, it ends up in an unhappy situation. As we saw with Bill O'Brien, and in that case, it was the GM that got ousted and not the coach. I don't think that happens with DeMeco Ryans. If Nick Caserio goes out there and does things his way and it doesn't work, it'll be DeMeco Ryans that's out, and Nick Caserio will still come in and bring in just another head coach. So it just seems that Nick Caserio in this whole situation is the untouchable one and not the head coaches. So it's real interesting, to say the least, but I think they have to get that part of it right if they want this to work.
And then that, correct me if I'm wrong, that leaves Indianapolis and Arizona still looking for head coaches as well. So we'll have to see.
And a GM. Well, no, GM in Arizona just got filled. So, yes. Yeah, they got their GM. But, yes, they're still looking for head coaches. And it might be the Fighting Jeff Saturday looking the way it's going.
Oh, man. I didn't see that coming. I really didn't see that coming.
Man, I'm hoping that one of these teams is waiting on Bieniemy to give him a chance finally. Man, this guy's been fighting for a job for 4 years now. It seems like this is the 5th year. And it seems like every offensive coordinator that comes out of Kansas City, they're there for like 1 or 2 years and they get a head coaching job. Well, what's different with Bieniemy? My thing is, they've had probably the number one offense part of the last 3-4 years. And to see him still not getting that opportunity, and to see him, in the Super Bowl year after year, it's just sad, you know what I'm saying? So I hope one of these teams is holding out for Bieniemy to offer him the job. And that's the only thing I can come up with, because they hadn't hired anybody yet, and I hope it stay that way so they can hire this brother, I would love to see him get an opportunity and get a shot, because it's been too long for him to be offensive coordinator for one of the best teams in the league in Kansas City, get into the Super Bowl every year, and he still hadn't got a shot to be lead his own team or be a head coach. So I just think it's time. I think it's time for him to get an opportunity.
No, I'd agree with that. Go ahead, Jeff.
It's interesting because usually if they're waiting for that one guy, you hear reports sneak out about it, right? You always hear, oh yeah, this is going to be the next head coach. They just have to wait for the season and he's going to get the offer and it'll be official. You have not heard that about Eric Bieniemy. And if that's the case, there should have been reports. We're not getting that. So I don't know if Eric Bieniemy is really their guy. I think he's probably a guy they really, really like. He should be the guy. I think it's time to stop playing the Eric Bieniemy shell game. What is the excuse this time around? First, he doesn't call the plays. We realize he does because Andy Reid must be a hell of a ventriloquist if he's calling the plays without moving his lips. So then it's he didn't interview well. So that excuse has been gone.
30
right?
years ago in college, he did X.
That excuse is gone. So we've done the excuse shell game, right? So what's the next excuse? At this point, the proof is in the pudding. Right? They've gone to 5 straight championship games. Right? He's been offensive coordinator there for 5 years. Okay, for 5 years he's been the offensive coordinator. They've gotten the job done offensively, and they've taken away weapons on that offense. They've changed the offensive line. They are still having the same result. He's obviously, it's not just Patrick Mahomes. It is definitely the offensive coordinator as well. He deserves an opportunity with all these coordinators we throw out there and talk about opportunities. Kellen Moore just got let go from a winning team in Dallas. Gets another OC job. But he was doing the interview circuit for head coaches. There's no way you look at Kellen Moore and Eric Bieniemy and go, these guys are equal. Both these guys should be head coaches. No, they're not. One is way better than the other. One deserves it more, and he hasn't been getting his opportunities. So it's about time we stop playing the shell game of excuses and give the man the opportunity.
Couldn't agree more. And it kind of segues right into that. I feel like Kellen Moore was out of a job, maybe half a cup of coffee. And then it was like, wow. Yeah.
Couple of minutes.
He went to Starbucks and got an offer before he got out of there.
Yeah, and I think he's going to have a lot of pressure on him, too. Going to the Chargers, of course, we talked about the golden anointed one, Justin Herbert, and what his playoff performance was. To go from Dallas, and a lot of people obviously are blaming some of Dallas's issues and the lack of playoff success in Dallas on him. Now you go to a Chargers squad, young up and coming, when they're healthy, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Eckler, a lot of talented weapons. What's my man's name? Philip, that was exhausted and couldn't run his route at tight end. They got a lot of weapons for the Chargers out there. So it's a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure on Moore to go out there and succeed, especially like you talked about, Jeff, having no job at 2:00 and by 5:30 you have one again. People are going to want to see some results.
Yeah, and you look at the situation he's going into. It's a winning situation. He's got the quarterback. He's got a lot of pieces around him. So what's going to be the excuse this time, right? You had all those pieces in Dallas for many years, and you had games where your offense was just obvious, okay? The reason why he got the coordinator job was because Linehan became obvious. The reason Linehan got the job because Callahan became obvious and he didn't get along with the head coach. The head coach got to take it away because he became obvious. So all of these things come back. And you talk about with Kellen Moore, it's obvious. Now, I've been a coordinator and I've had to throw around, but I can know how you throw it around when your offense is top 2 in the league and you're scoring 30 points a game. You're not very obvious if you're scoring 30 points a game. Kellen Moore was very good, but when he came up against really good defenses, top defenses that could do certain things, he became obvious. Those interceptions that Dak do in the playoffs, okay? One was a bad route. The other one was a play call where you don't run whip routes versus zone. That's a play call. That's not the quarterback just throwing a bad ball. He threw a bad ball. So yes, he threw it into double coverage. You don't throw the whip route there. But the whip route wouldn't be called if you knew what you were calling. And against the defense that's dropping in the zone to watch your shallow routes. So what you do is you run levels routes, right? You high-low defenders. He didn't do that, right? So when you're not doing that and not helping your quarterback, do you get mad at the quarterback all the time? No, you have to take accountability as a coordinator and say, you're not helping our quarterback succeed. You're not helping our offense in big games. You're crippling them because you can't seem to manage a game based on the situations. You can't make adjustments to what you're seeing against quality defenses. When you have a defense's number, you have it all game. But when you have a defense that you struggle against, you continue to struggle for 4 quarters. And that's a problem. They were finding ways to move the ball, but he didn't exactly utilize the best players, right? He kept overutilizing Noah Brown. You brought in T.Y. Hilton, and you're still giving T.Y. Hilton 10 to 12 plays a game. Meanwhile, you're still using Noah Brown. That's me as a coordinator, I'm putting the guys out there that are going to get open. I'm not going to put out guys out there that are blockers and sometimes catchers. So that is where it comes down to Kellen Moore. You can be as creative as you want with all these crazy play calls that don't work half the time. But the fact of the matter is, if you're going to go to San Diego and win, you're going to have to be a consistent play caller that scores points. And when you get up against some tough defenses in the playoffs, you better consistently score points then, just like you did during the regular season, or you're going to be in the same boat in another 2 years.
Start playing the drinking game. Every time somebody says San Diego instead of Los Angeles, you got to drink whatever's in front of you. Water, energy drink, whatever.
Another thing.
Yeah, go ahead, Phil.
What frustrates these coaches so much, and when you look at these situations, what frustrates a lot of these coaches so much is that you have a guy who's had more success than Brian Leftwich, and then you have Kellen Moore who gets the job minutes after he's fired. So that's the thing that people see, and that's what we see, and that's what the fans see, and everybody see, and that frustrates these coaches so much, man. So I just don't understand. You know what I'm saying? This game of football in the NFL, it's come down to friendships and who they know, and not resumes. And that's a prime example of it right there. Leftwich just won a Super Bowl 2 years ago, and he come with a good system. You know what I'm saying? Even though he had Brady, the GOAT, as a quarterback, but at the same time, he had a good system, and he was a good coach. He had success. Well, Kellen Moore hadn't had the success that Brian Leftwich had so far, and that's what frustrates people more than a little.
Yeah, and if you look at the two teams, right, those two coordinators, right, especially this year covering the Bucs, one of the biggest holes they had this year was not replacing Gronk. So they had those young tight ends out there because Cam Brate was hurt half the season. And those guys would catch balls, and you go, wow, they're going to be young tight ends that are capable of doing it, but why can't they do it consistently? Because they were schemed open, which is what you want your coach to do. I'm going to scheme ways to get you open. I'm going to find ways to get you to football. Well, people got mad at Kellen Moore when he had Amari Cooper because he didn't scheme Amari Cooper open, right? One of the biggest issues they had with the offense was you have Amari Cooper. Why are you not trying to get him open? Why is it just him running routes and just trying to win on-on-ones when they're rolling coverage his way and doing all this stuff? Why are you not scheming him open? Well, if he's creative to come up with all these play designs, but he's not finding ways to look at the defense and go, okay, if I take care of this matchup, because the NFL is all matchup football now offensively, right? You hide certain guys here, and you hide them here. Yeah, and you move a guy around the formation, and you try and get the right matchup in the right situation in the passing game to take advantage of it. And he couldn't seem to do that. He's figured it out with CeeDee Lamb for the most part, but he couldn't do it when he had Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb. So here you are. He's going to have Mike Williams. He's going to have Keenan Allen. He's going to have Austin Eckler. He's going to have all these guys. And if you're going to tell me he's just going to run out there and do the same thing, it's going to be a hard time in San Diego. Because your quarterback's going to start throwing the same interceptions Dak was throwing, and they're going to start to question him too. No, sometimes you just got to look at the guy who comes with the dinner and go, you know what? Something about this meal ain't right.
Yeah. I like that. And I like to see Brian Leftwich get another opportunity too quickly. I mean, bring him back home. Bring him to Washington. I wouldn't be mad about that at all, for sure. Well, we talked about, obviously, Super Bowls upcoming, and we have the pleasure and honor of having somebody who has coached in the Super Bowl, won the Super Bowl on the show, talking about Philip Daniels. We ain't talking about me. I kind of wanted to give Phil the floor. And before we hear about Jeff and what he's experienced and seen so far at the Senior Bowl, just wanted you to kind of talk a little bit about your Super Bowl experience, kind of like leading up to it, the game, after the game, kind of give you the floor. Let you talk about the whole Super Bowl experience.
Well, for me, just looking at going back and thinking about that whole situation was the fact that, we got everything out of the way early. The ticket situation, the travel stuff, the organization, Philadelphia did a good job of just, keeping us informed on the next steps and what we need to do and stuff we need to do early and all that stuff. So they made the transition very easy for us. And now that they're going back, it's going to be easy again for those guys. But, the main thing is for me as a coach and for us as coaches was to tell guys that, stay out of trouble. You don't want to do anything to jeopardize this opportunity at this time, because you go out there and get in trouble, you take the focus away from the game, and you take the focus to yourself, and you take away from all the other guys that's going out to win. Every Super Bowl and every year, there's always a situation that comes about, and usually that situation don't go well for the team, and the team is on the losing end. So we've seen that happen before a bunch of times, and that's the first thing, because you want to make sure your guys know exactly what's coming and what this is about. It's about going out and winning the game and doing something special for your team and getting a championship for the fans, and yourself. So my thing is, that week was it was crazy because I've never been as a player. I never went to the Super Bowl as a player, and to go as a coach, and realizing that I'm helping a group of guys accomplish something that I didn't get a chance to accomplish, and I wanted so bad for them because I don't want them to go through their careers with no ring, what I'm saying, and no Super Bowl. So it was a special moment for me to share that with the guys and to go through that and see how much it meant to the guys and how focused they were. The main thing for the players, in this game is just was for us to stay loose. Don't get too tight. Just stay loose. And I know there was a couple of days of practice where guys were real loose, and then we had some guys who were like, man, we might be too loose. I said, no, we ain't loose enough. We need to stay. You got to stay as loose as possible. Don't let the game get too big for you. What I'm saying? It's a football game. You want to go out there and prepare the way you need to, but go out there and perform. What I'm saying? But don't do too much. And when you get in, a lot of times guys get in these kind of games and they try to get on that field and they try to do too much. You're not gonna win the MVP doing too much. You're gonna be liked and you have a ring on your finger by doing exactly what you need to do. And that's what guys got to understand when they go into this game. But the week for me was an easy week because they made it easy for us to transition. I think the hardest part was just making sure your family had their getting on the flight down there, had got their ticket situation taken care of, and that they were situated more than anything. Because the players and coaches are going to be taken care of by the organization. They're going to get down there. We went to Minnesota. We stepped off the plane. It was cold. They gave us a nice something for our head, to wear, and we got that. And we was at the hotel at the Mall of America. So of course, guys had to learn to stay off their feet, not do too much, go enjoy yourself, but don't do too much. Don't be walking around all the time. And so my thing is I enjoyed the week. I enjoyed the week. I enjoyed the whole thing because I'd never been before. But at the same time, for me as a coach, it was all about making sure the guys knew how important this game was and that they stay focused and they don't do anything stupid to jeopardize what the opportunity that's set in front of us. But like I say, it was an awesome experience. I mean, I know those guys gonna have a blast the second time around because a lot of those guys never been either. We only had like a handful of guys that went to a Super Bowl. Chris Long and Malcolm Jenkins, those kind of guys. But to have our guys experience that and to be a part of that, man, it was special. And to have my family, I brought my whole family to that game. Even though I was a coach, I never went to a Super Bowl. And I always told them if I ever get to a Super Bowl, I'm bringing everybody. So I brought my whole family, my sons, everybody, my daughter, everybody. I brought the whole family. And I had some friends that came too to the game to support me that's been in my life for a long time. But to have them there to support me and to win that game and to see the tears on everybody's face for me and Brian Dawkins to meet up on the field because, neither one of us won the Super Bowl, for us to meet up on the field with tears in our eyes and hug. And because he was a part of our staff that year, Brian was, and he was there helping us out. And it was awesome, man. It was amazing. So I'm just looking forward to seeing these guys at the end of this game. Now, these two teams, they've been in the Super Bowl a lot. I mean, you got to think that Kansas City went, and 5 years ago, Philly went. So a lot of these guys been in the Super Bowl. So it'll be a little different this time around. But it's still a special game that you want to go out and try to win that thing and do it for you and your fans.
Nah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Thanks for your insight. Definitely appreciate that. Now, Mr. On the Road, Jeff Barnes, day one, I believe, of the Senior Bowl in Mobile was today. Kind of give you the floor and kind of talk about what you've seen so far today.
Oh, absolutely. Today is the first full day of practices. Started off with the morning presser with Jim Nagy comes out. He addresses us with the media. A couple of the players come out. Today it was Max Duggan, TCU, Isaiah Foskey, They had a chance to answer some questions before they hit the field. And some guys today, usually take a day I focus on the offensive and defensive linemen. Then I go back the next day and I focus more on the skill positions, and I get to do a little bit of a floating around day 3. So that's exactly how it works. So today I'm focused on those offensive linemen and defensive linemen for both squads. And there were some guys out there on these squads that you really, really have to like. One of them is the mammoth tackle from Ohio State, DeJuan Jones. You're talking about a 6 foot, basically a 6'8" tackle, 375 pounds. Moves well, though, in protection, does a good job in run blocking, is able to get position, move bodies. But when he gets his hands on you, I saw him erase Isaiah Foskey today on a pass rush in one-on-one. And Isaiah Foskey was having his way with most of the offensive linemen. But he ran into Jones, and he got erased. He literally got put to the ground. And he didn't have to go down with him. It wasn't one of them fall on top of you, you're going to the ground. It was he got tossed down to the ground. And so he had a good day. Foskey on the defensive end had a really good day. That tough matchup with Jones. Yaya Diaby from Louisville. Plays a lot more 3 technique, a little light. I think they're going to have to add some weight to him if they keep him there. I think overall, as a 3-4 DN, he'd be a nice fit. He has the ability to edge rush, very quick, very disruptive. Another guy that I like, same thing with, what is his name? From Bowling Green, Carl Brooks, defensive lineman. Now, there's a big boy that plays that one technique, very strong and disruptive, is able to fire through gaps, gets hands on players, is able to push them, break their anchor, and work them into the backfield. So he's another guy that I liked on the interior. The guy that struggled today on the offensive line was the tackle from BYU, and that was Freeland. Let me just make sure I'm looking at the right side. Sorry. Yes. So is a tall tackle. We talk about 6'7". A lot of those tall tackles tend to have a hard time playing with proper bend. So they allow the defensive lineman to get underneath their pads and walk them back. That happened to him a lot today. He also struggled to keep him from capturing the edge on him. So he's one of those guys that he has the length and the size that people like. But what you saw today was the issues with his size. Sometimes too much size is a bad thing. He's a little long, has a hard time bending, and it hurts him when he's trying to anchor. It hurts him when he's trying to seal and when he's trying to capture the corner, set the edge for the quarter for the running game on the outside. So there's a lot of things you see with certain linemen this week. There's a lot more. Cody Monk from North Dakota State looked real good at guard. Another one of those North Dakota State guys that we talk about. There seems to be pumping out pro players right now for a program that everybody thought was just this fledgling FCS program that just wins championships. Well, they're pumping out pro athletes too. And he's the latest one that's doing real damage on the offensive line. So there's a lot more we'll talk about on the draft show tomorrow night. So make sure you tune in for that. But overall, it's going to be a great week here in Mobile.
Did you say the guy from Ohio State, 6'8", 375?
Yes. And he's not a fat 375.
Golly, man.
It's well distributed. Now, they may want to tone him up a little bit more, because it is a little loose up top, but he's not a frumpy 375. He moves. But he's a mammoth tackle. He blocks the light.
Is that the guy with the wingspan? The largest?
Yes, DeJuan Jones. Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy because when I was at the combine, and I was working with the Eagles, I met his mom. Mm-hmm. And this when he was on his way to Ohio State. And she was in the lobby just talking, she met me. We talked about him. We're talking about him going to Ohio State. She was showing me some basketball clips of him, him playing basketball. And I said, man, and I told her right there, I said, he's going to be special. You know what I'm saying? If he can move like that big on a basketball court, he's going to be special. So, and of course, we had a conversation for a while and just to see where he's going and how well he's done. So I was right. So I told him he was going. When you get a guy with that kind of wingspan and that kind of size, and the way the Ohio State played this year, it's looking up for him, man. Plus, for me as a defensive end, the guys I hated going against the most guys with long arms because they hit you before you get started. Mm-hmm. And you think about it, this guy got the largest wingspan of ever that ever came through there, he's going to be able to hit some people before they get out their stands or right after they get out their stands, slow them down and be able to control them. And I think that's what's helping them at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, and he's another one of those big tackles who doesn't play with a great amount of bend, but those long arms help. You think about Orlando Brown. Orlando Brown doesn't bend very well. Orlando Brown Jr., I got to specify since his father didn't play in the NFL, right? So, he doesn't bend very well. He doesn't have the greatest feet, but those long arms are able to force you past the quarterback when he gets his hands on you. Well, here's a guy who has the ability to get his hands on you with those long arms, but can clamp down on you and stop your forward momentum. What he did to Foskey was just that. Foskey got underneath him and tried to drive him, and he got his hands on him, and literally Foskey went straight to the ground. And it's just the raw strength and the ability to use those the extremities. It's unteachable. That's an uncoachable thing. That's just that's a natural gift.
Yeah. Hope you're taking notes, Cincinnati Bengals.
I'm training some guys that's getting ready for the pro days and combines down in Naples, Florida. I fly down there every week, Wednesday through Friday, to train these guys. And one
is that Phil frozen or is it me?
No, I think we lost Phil for a second there.
Okay,
he's gonna come back. There you go. There you go.
That's it.
Right. So I train guys down in Naples, Florida for the combine and pro days. And one of the things I see with a lot of these guys when they come out of college is that they don't know how to control their bodies. In order to be a good player, you got to be able to control your body. So I do a lot of drills with these guys to try to get them to be able to move their body, control their bodies. Because when I talk to a lot of these guys that I'm training, and I ask them how many sacks you had, in your college career, which really don't matter to me because a lot of these guys playing out of position. And I asked them, and a lot of them said like 3-4 sacks. I got one guy that had 9, and I'm asking them this for a reason because when I look at them go through the drills and I look at them in and out the drills, they don't know how to control their body. That's the reason they don't get sacks and they're not efficient in how they rush. And then when it comes to the run game, same thing. They're not efficient with their hands and where to place them. They don't have good technique, and they don't come out the hip. They don't strike with their hands. And the guys got to realize how important these things are. And I tell my son all the time, you got to become a good striker. You can't go out and just lay your hands on somebody and think they're going to move. Go strike them and make them move. And that's what I see in these guys. And I'm pretty sure you seen a lot of that at the combine. But these guys, even though some of these guys had good coaching in college, and some of them didn't have quite so good coaching. So you see a little bit of both. And the thing is, those are things that when they get to the league, you have to teach. You have to make sure they become good strikers, they become good technicians, and they do all the right things. So that's what I'm going through with the guys I'm training, trying to get them where they need to be. And I told them, every guy that I've trained has made an NFL roster. Don't make me look bad. Don't make me.
Ain't nothing wrong with that, man. Keep the streak alive.
Right.
Keep the streak alive.
Yeah, there were a couple of Shepherd players that were here. I was excited to see. One was quarterback Tyson. I want to make sure I say his name. Badgett. Okay, one of the guys I've been watching for several years. And if you know Shepherd's D2 school up in Pennsylvania, he broke records. He has the arm displayed it today. Now he had some moments adjusting where he struggled with the adjustments on routes with some of these receivers. So there's going to be a learning curve for him. We expect it to get better day by day. That's what we're looking for with him, being that he's making the jump. However, the natural skills are there. So that's one of the things we wanted to see. One of his offensive linemen one of his tackles is here, but he is not practicing because he has a cast on his wrist. So we will not see him this week. And no Malik Cunningham today. So that was a shock. A lot of us are looking around for him. I know he's coming from NFLPA, so he probably will take the field tomorrow. They haven't made any announcement about that, though.
Hey Jeff, the guy from Shepherd, that's who put my son's team, IUP, out the playoffs.
It's about to get interesting now, people.
I was at the game, saw him play, and the guy can make every throw. He's athletic. He can move around. I mean, he broke all the records this year. I heard all the passing records out there, and he's a good player, man. But yeah, they put my son's team. We won the conference. We beat them during the regular season to win the conference title. But then they had to play them for the championship game, and man, it's like we look just like San Francisco. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong, and he took advantage of everything. So yeah, he's a good player, man. I'm telling you, whoever get him, I know it's going to take some development and stuff, but whoever get him will have a special player.
Oh yeah, and you know that's your son's school used to beat up on my brother's alma mater. my brother played for Lock Haven, so
okay.
Yeah,
okay.
So yeah, when you talk about PSAC, it's like, oh man, that brings back memories of going up to Lock Haven and watching every PSAC powerhouse come into Lock Haven and beat the heck out of them. So that 4-hour drive to watch them get their brains beaten in was nothing like that.
Yeah, my son actually redshirted this year, so he'll be out there next year balling, doing his thing. You know what I'm saying? He's ready to go. You know, of course, he tore his ACL his senior year in high school, so they gave him a full time to heal. They gave him all 10 months. And I was happy about that.
Awesome.
And you know, IUP is one of the winningest D2 programs in the country, and I was happy to see him go there. And I talked to the coach, and they took him in with open arms, man. So I'm looking forward to seeing him this year. And now that quarterback's gone from Shepherd, we got a chance.
There you go. Well, I think that's going to do it for us this week on The Perspective. Definitely want to thank you guys for tuning in. Definitely appreciate the love and support. Numbers are definitely going up. We're excited for Super Bowl week. Obviously, we'll start locking in and getting more in depth in our conversation with Super Bowl week. Maybe get a guest or two on here too, leading up to the show. But as always, I'm Joe Cardoza, joined by Philip Daniels and Jeff Barnes. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll catch you next week.